A director needs a team.
When we got a chance to play the first few missions of Control, the latest game from Alan Wake, Quantum Break and Max Payne developer Remedy Entertainment, we weren't really sure what to expect. You play as Jessie Faden, a woman visiting the headquarters of the Federal Bureau of Control, or FBC, a secret US government agency that studies paranormal phenomena. Only Jessie suddenly finds herself appointed its new director, and she's tasked to fight a malevolent force bent on corrupting reality. All sounds pretty standard, all in a day's video games. What we weren't expecting with Control, however, is how it genuinely breaks the mold and manages to not only be one of the most striking looking games we've played this year, but also one of the creepiest. And we're not talking about buckets of gore or tons of jump scares. It's just the way that Control manages to get under your skin by how ordinary, and yet at the very same time, just how twisted it can be. It's a fascinating balance, and can leave you feeling vulnerable even with a whole arsenal of supernatural abilities at your disposal. We can't wait to wander even deeper into the oldest house, and we think it'll get its hooks into you too. Here are 5 reasons you should be excited for Control, one of the most unsettling games you'll play this year. One thing that immediately sets Control apart as very different is its setting. Games are not limited in what fantastical worlds they can take you to or incredible sights they can dream up. Alien planets, colourful dreamscapes, magical fantasy lands. We've all been there. But it's one thing to go battling evil while traipsing through the 7 circles of hell, and it's quite another when you're navigating environments that could be the office building that's literally just down the street. There's something at once innately familiar and oddly unsettling about the brutalist architecture of the oldest house, the FBC's headquarters, harshly lit as it is with fluorescent bulbs and decorated with dated wooden panelling. One moment it can all feel very serene, boring almost. And then everything gets turned upside down as the lighting changes to blood red, creepy projections are played against the walls, and you suddenly notice the bodies suspended, eerily floating, far above your head. The oldest house shifts and changes as you continue to move towards its innermost sanctums, and things will surely take a turn for the weirder as the game progresses. But as for the first few missions, something about this mundane yet oppressive concrete fortress had us on edge the entire time. Adding to the unsettling nature of the oldest house was undoubtedly its former workers, struck by the mysterious force known as the Hiss. Humans caught in its grasp are frozen in place, contorted and floating high above the ground, until they're called upon. One moment you'll be exploring the oldest house undisturbed, and then the next, the Hiss will be dropping in to say hi. You can't seem to draw the Hiss out of these unfortunate souls like you can with different areas of the oldest house, so you've got no choice but to fight them. To do this, you'll need to use the service weapon, an object of power that you pick up not long after you first enter the headquarters. Apparently, picking up the service weapon also makes you the new director of the FBC. Good to know if you're not the best at filling out job application forms. The service weapon doesn't require ammo in a traditional sense. It replenishes its rounds after a few seconds rest from shooting. When you first acquire the service weapon, it takes the form of a pretty standard pistol. But as you make your way through the oldest house, you'll gain the ability to craft different forms, mods and abilities, including Shatter, which causes the service weapon to behave more like a shotgun. Outfit both the service weapon and Jessie with multiple mods to suit your playstyle that you can find dotted around the landscape, and you'll start to feel incredibly powerful. You'll also unlock different modifications and abilities as you travel deeper into the house, including the ability to throw things at your enemies via telekinesis and the ability to dash forward and evade oncoming attacks. However badass you feel with all these newfound powers, however, you will quickly be brought crashing back down to earth when faced with one of the game's boss fights. These guys are tough, made even tougher by the fact that the only way Jesse can recover health is by picking up particles left by enemies you've defeated. The bosses we've encountered early in the game required us to be patient and precise, and things can really unravel fast if you aren't careful. It's definitely worthwhile exploring the oldest house thoroughly in order to build up a healthy stack of potential mods and materials for kitting yourself out with later. It's also important to remember that Jesse's melee attack is surprisingly powerful and very handy for punching your way out of any sticky situations. And trust us, you will want to punch as many of the hiss as you can manage to get within melee range of. Do not let their cute little uniforms sway you, they are horrible. Especially when they manage to wriggle out of said uniforms. Ugh.
A carousel horse. Why is kid stuff always so creepy?
As creepy as it is, however, Control is a stylish game. The way the title cards erupt on the screen as you enter a new area can often take you off guard, but it does ensure that you aren't likely to forget a new area's name for a while. As a little aside, the developer wasn't originally intending on including a map in Control, but felt it was necessary to avoid players getting hopelessly lost. That said, we managed to navigate around just fine without using it at all, by paying close attention to NPC instructions and checking signposting on the walls. It kind of felt more satisfying doing it that way, like we were navigating our way around a real space. Anyway, the oldest house's comforting sense of familiarity will often be torn apart as Jesse communicates with the Bureau's former director, Trench, and sees images of him projected onto the walls and ceilings. But it is a neat visual, even if it occasionally gives you a little jolt of fear when it beams in unannounced. Everything, from the way enemies melt away in a cloud of iridescent dust, to the use of bold colours to signify the hold the hiss have over particular areas, to the geometric beauty of the astral plane. It all displays Remedy's keen eye for detail and singular visual style. Another very Remedy calling card can also be spotted in cutscenes, where very much like previous games, such as Alan Wake and Quantum Break, the developer uses live action footage to bring certain scenes to life. It's funny how these particular sections can sometimes feel more uncanny than the CG cutscenes, a sensation that's no doubt intentional to make players feel just a little bit uneasy without really knowing why. But a lot of that uneasiness is down to the fact that when you begin Control, almost everything's a mystery to you as the player. You don't know much about Jessie aside from the fact she's found herself in the oldest house at the wrong, or perhaps the perfectly right time, and that she's there because she believes the Bureau had something to do with the disappearance of her brother years before. You actually hear Jessie's inner monologue as she explores, and a lot of what she says doesn't really make sense, though you get the impression that it will later on down the line as you uncover more about her past and how the Bureau operates. You also hear a lot of talk about AWEs, or Altered World Events, and OOPs, Objects of Power, Oz, and Oops. If you think those names are on the nose, then let me just tell you that Jessie's hometown is literally called Ordinary. Basically, the game starts you down the path to unraveling a big mystery and potentially a big conspiracy. But even after a couple of hours with the game, we still had more questions than answers. Adding to all of this confusion and intrigue is the Board, an otherworldly and seemingly benevolent entity, or entities, taking the form of a pyramid. It, or they, speak to Jessie in an unknown language where words have multiple meanings depending on context. Something tells us there's way more to the Board than first meets the eye, and only time will tell what they're really up to. Control may be a little less story-focused and more gameplay-heavy than previous Remedy titles, but that doesn't mean there can't be an intriguing tale at its beating heart. One that will definitely leave us feeling creeped out, with a long list of unanswered questions and a strong mistrust of a blue and red colour scheme. And we haven't even mentioned the janitor Ati, easily Control's best character. Whether or not he's an axe murderer though, Well, let's just say the jury's still out on that one.
Not be last winter's snow. You better go now, so you don't have to run with your head as your third leg.
Are you keen to explore the oldest house? How do you think Remedy's latest compares to their previous games? Let us know in the comments, and as always, hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon to stay up to date with everything from Eurogamer. Hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching. Bye!